it. 'Cause it was there. We're art sluts.
My guest today is the insanely talented artist, musician, and dedicated activist who I am proud to call my friend. Aileen Loy is as humble as she is talented. She designs costumes and props for television and theater. And as a musician and singer, she has toured Europe and the US. Let's go. So you are an artist, sculptor and that sort of thing, and then also a musician, singer, performer, and an activist. Have you always connected those three different worlds, or did they happen at different times?
I think they kind of happened because of each other. Like I was like in the vicinity of all of it at the same time. Like I know I got involved in music because of theater, and I actually got involved in art because of theater. Because I was kind of like a tech geek. Ended up making a lot of props and learning how to. It was like, oh, how do you do this? And so I just kind of went from there, where I kind of was teaching myself as I went along. And the same thing with music is I got pimped out at a Nashville Shakespeare Festival. They're like, hey, we want you to play this bard. He hangs out with the prince and doesn't say anything for the entirety of the play, except he sings twice, like in the middle of nowhere. All of a sudden, this hanger-on, this consort of the prince in Much Ado About Nothing, and it's just because all of a sudden, the character's name is Balthazar, and he's just like wandering around with smoking a Black Russian and just like looking a little, moody and surly, and then he sings a eulogy at the grave of the young maiden that was besmirched, and and then there was another one, but it's just like, oh yes, let me do that. And I was terrified of singing at the time, so it was just like, what? Why is this happening? But I really loved it.
Why were you terrified of singing?
Oh, everybody in my family were incredibly critical of my voice. They're the kind of I don't know. They have this like sense that great artists are born, not made, and is the idea that anybody in that family would ever be involved in the arts and it be okay. Like I guess they have to. It's kind of like you have to ask permission or something like that to do any of this. And because my voice is so kind of like low and a little bit froggy, they're just like, no, don't do that.
When you grew up, you didn't sing at first.
Yeah, because I didn't sing very high. I didn't sing the way they thought women should sing or girls should sing. So I didn't have a little princess voice. And they also, I think they had this very, we were kind of from a poor immigrant family, but they had this classist idea that great artists are born and not made kind of thing. So they didn't understand how, the idea that you would ever actually just work on something and develop, your own style or your own thing. It didn't occur to them that they were allowed to do that. So I think there's a little bit of self-loathing in there. But yes, I was terrified of singing in public. I never did. And I got pimped out for this one role. Those jerks at the Nashville Shakespeare Festival. And actually, it ended up being a lot of fun. I actually ended up pulling it off, and I got the bug after that. And then when I moved to Atlanta, another theater guy got me involved. We started kind of working up some songs together, and I think my first time actually singing as this is a proper singing gig was because of that, and it was some top shelf gig behind Dad's garage eons ago. And then we ended up forming a band, and our first show was at Echo Lounge, which is this really, it's it was one of my favorite venues in Atlanta for the longest time. Yeah. So we ended up doing the entire album wrap of Blue Valentine's album by Tom Waits, and it was supposed to be kind of a once-off kind of thing, and we kind of kept doing Tom Waits stuff for a while. So I mean, for a pretty long while,
really good response from the audience to keep you on that track for a while.
That was kind of fortunate for me, because if I was going to do something like the singing, where I'm not supposed to really do that, but actually just go wholly into it and get into the storytelling aspect of it, these are the perfect people to be surrounded by.
Aileen's low-tone voice is singularly unique. It comes from the center of the earth and rises up both beautiful and terrifying. Let's take a listen to her first solo performance at No Words ATL 3.0 in 2024.
Because they're doing it, they're kind of going on like wholly into it, so I have no excuse. So it's just like, hey, here's a new song. I think we should play it tonight. Yeah, and it's like, sure, let me work on that.
So some originals and some
Yeah,
Tom
we
Waits?
when we ended up relocating to Prague and Berlin, um, and like while we were there, we formed another band that was all originals that like mostly I had written, and we recorded that and then kind of toured extensively around that music. And there were enough venues that still knew us from the Tom Waits stuff, so we would do like special shows where we would do two sets, one with the Tom Waits stuff. Like there was a club in Berlin that every year on New Year's we would do a special show with them. And so yeah, like that's how we got the gig, is because they were big Tom Waits fans, and so yeah, we ended up doing two sets for them. Yeah.
And did you release an album of the
We did,
original
we did. It
stuff?
was like like a little indie
Oh,
release.
cool.
I probably have an extra copy sitting around here somewhere I can get to you.
That would be great.
The town crews held a new dance on the border up by the sea. One brought the phonograph, three poured the tea. Brother Crow recited a poem intimating the secret dread, and Mother read the roll call to honor the recent dead. When I was young, my father plucked a blackbird from the sky. He drove a stone into its heart, and in the sand it died. once, drove its stone into its chest. And the crows all danced a funeral march, ripped feathers from the breast. And when the party was said and done, the preacher gave a prayer, and the crows all smashed their teacups, crying into the air. My father stole a blackbird, he plucked it from a tree, and the mother crows sang about him as they marched into the sea. As they marched into the sea. As they marched into the sea. As they marched into the sea.
That was a cut from Aileen's original band Trunk Show, called A Murder of Crows, on the album Stay Bad, released in 2010.
I remember kind of like doing collage art and oil painting, and like I was like, okay, what kind of weird cover can I make for this? Stuff like thing. It was all very much like a DIY kind of project.
Yeah. Well, and that's also that kind of holistic approach you seem to have to music and art. I sense from you that it's not about this one single product as it is the process and all aspects of the process.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really is about doing it. Yeah, like the more involved I get, the more I end up like going, oh, let me find out if I could. Yeah, it's like doing the album covers and then kind of like learning about what the graphic design elements require, that kind of thing. To, hey, I want an instrument that does this, but I can't afford it. The last several years, I've just been building instruments, or kind of like, hey, I wonder if I can build this. The first one was an interesting prototype, did not work whatsoever. The first one was kind of like, this should work fine, and I'm like drilling holes into this like big brass pot, and it's like it was an interesting idea, and I'll probably go back and try to rework it on some level, but it didn't work. And then the two that I made after that, the second one worked a little bit better and like had its own charm, and then the third one was like spot on, this big behemoth looking thing that I made out of a brazier kind of thing. It's got its own stand. It's like 3 or 4 feet tall. It's ridiculous.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. What was it made out of?
It was like an old brass brazier that had its own stand, and the stand was like 2 feet tall or something like that. It's a pretty, I mean, it's got presence, and I call that the big whaler. But like what I learned from the third one, I went back to the second one and did some repairs and stuff like that. So I've got two that are pretty operational now.
Aileen builds her own instruments, and when you see her perform, she sits in a nest of her inventions. Here is a sample of the waterphone.
like learned a lot about contact mics and things that can go wrong with contact mics, like oscillation. And yeah, just like things about setup where it's like, hey, so don't have your cords plugged in when you're moving stuff because, yeah, which is great. I mean, it's great. I basically am like, well, that's going to happen. If you're learning as you go, you're going to make some big mistakes, but you're doing it.
You're going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I 100% agree with you on that. I'm a firm believer in mistakes are part of the process, and you have to go with them, and they take you in interesting spots sometimes. So what's your current setup when you're performing?
Right now, like the last thing that I did like kind of improv music, a giant whale. So it was some of my whale song kind of ideas. And so that was like a little MIDI keyboard that I was kind of like running through like just a small portable amp because I needed water noise and like a couple of little kind of those like kind of old 80s synthesized patches of like swelling, piano sounds,
Right.
kind of thing. So it's like like the Ken Burns kind of David Lynch kind of sound.
David Lynch. Love that
So
music.
it's like romantic and a little bit like off at the same time. So I had that set up, and it's like a tiny little like mini keyboard. And then I had my 2 water phones. I've got a nail violin that and a music box. The music box, it's literally just a music box element that I screwed into an old piece of wood that was sitting around that was long enough and wide enough. It's pretty primitive, but what I do is it's a punch card reader. And so you get these long, they're kind of like cardstock tickets. You're like maybe like 2 feet long or so, and you punch holes.
Wow.
But basically the element reads the holes in the punch card.
Oh, well, I'm just processing that. So when you are creating the punches, do you go random, or do you kind of have a sense of what
I haven't done that yet, and I want to. There's a graph on there, so that it's gridded out, and so if you like punch right at the vertices, where the lines join, that's a note. So there's a whole like a legend on one's going down vertically, and so you know that's C2 or whatever, right? And so you can actually do that, and there are certain rules because like when you're putting the ticket through the element, it can't read the same note one after another, so you have to make space for it. So you have to rearrange some things. If you want to play a C again, then it's going to have to either be the rest of the chord, or it has to be a lower or higher C, blah, 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 or it has to like be longer.
I see what you mean about being like a techie geek.
And it's like, okay, those are the basic rules. Let's see what happens. And then, you start composing on it, and it's like, well, that was interesting. And like, maybe I need to make longer notes. And so like that got me more into composing for weird moments. So like that was with me. The nail violin was with me, and it was kind of a crapshoot as to which one I would hook up because I didn't always have both of them at the same time. And then an auto harp that has an extra octave on it. So it's like, you have your orchestral kind of like auto harp, and then this one, the bass strings are much deeper.
was a sample of the nail violin instrument created by Aileen Loy. Let me go back because I was fascinated the little that I've heard about your experience in Prague. That was with Blue Valentines, and you were together, and maybe they went to Europe and then contacted you or
Yeah,
something?
that's exactly what happened. Where they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna move, and yeah, but basically like a year later, they're like, hey, so you should come over here and we should reform the band. So they were already there. The lift was just getting me over there, I guess. So like the first time we went to Prague, that was fun and kind of like, being immersed in a different culture and kind of just selling everything I owned. Just
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
you're like, okay, let's go, let's do it. But then I came back for a couple of months and then moved to Berlin for several years, and that's where we ended up recording the album there for Trunk Show, and that was the all the original music. So, but yeah, that was kind of weird because we had a studio in a abandoned brewery in Friedrichshain.
Wow.
When we first were there, still doing repairs and renovations on it as they were renting out. So it was definitely on the down low, very Berlin style. So like one side of it is all of these artist galleries and stuff like that. And then on our side, on the very top floor, it was a handful of people, our band, and then like across from us was a techno producer with this
Oh my gosh.
huge console of stuff, and he's constantly working. And then the bottom two floors were submerged in water.
Oh my God.
They were like a basement and a sub basement. Literally, it took them a year to actually get the pumps in and everything like that so that those could be exposed. And they became gallery space and a nightclub.
Wow.
Yeah, but they were submerged in water for like almost a year. And so like, yeah, the big installation that happened down there was this guy, I want to say he was from Australia, that would like basically started living there and installing this insanely large installation in what was previously underwater.
Oh, wow.
It was cool. I mean, it was really cool. It was like a lot of sculptural, a lot of assemblage kind of stuff. So like that was really cool. But it was like, I don't regret my experiences there for sure, because like that definitely is testing your ability to do things the hard way and get it done.
For sure.
And still get it done, right? Where it's just like,
Did you say there's no heat in that building or something?
yeah, there's no heat. I ended up living there. Oh yeah, oh man.
Germany.
Like Germany, they don't play.
Yeah.
Like literally, like I remember going to work and seeing a blue sky one day, and I was like, oh my God. And I realized I hadn't seen it in 3 months because it was like March. And so the entirety of winter, it was like this opaque gray film.
Wow.
For daytime, it was just like, yes, it's technically day. You could see it's light, but I didn't quite realize that it had not been blue for so long. And so like as soon as like blue sky comes up and there's like sun and whatever, it's like people are out, on the sidewalks, basically having like their breakfast or brunch or whatever and hanging out with friends. And it's still cold as fuck. And, but they're like, yeah, oh, it's amazing. It's so nice. Yeah. And it's like, and they're right though. Cause I'm like, all right, I give, and I got my coffee outside and I'm like, nah, this is pretty great. Yeah, it's like I got lured back into Berlin under the promises that the studio was already built out and they had a place for me to stay. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm coming. I'm just gonna like stay a little longer and raise some money because I want to look for an apartment. They're like, no, we have it done. No, I mean, like, are you sure? Because like something told me, because they've done this to me before, and they're like, no, everything's all taken care of. And I'm like, well, no, I mean, like, give me a couple more months and I'll. And it's just like, and I'm looking online, for apartments and stuff, and they're like, no, we have everything taken care of. And so I finally kind of caved. I found out that, and what it was like we had a tour going that they'd already planned, and I guess that's why they wanted me to come as quickly as they did. Went on tour within less than a week
Wow.
of me landing in Berlin, and I had no place to stay, and the studio had not been built out. So we were like, I think we were on the road for a month. And so while I was on the road, I'm like hitting internet cafes, trying to figure out, number one, like, how do I contact people? Who do I contact to get sublet or just to find a place to crash when I get there? And so I finally did. I lucked into something, and I basically get off the train and then like try to find this part of town, and it's like at midnight, and I got a place for a week, and I went to the studio, and it had not been built out, and I ended up spending all of my money on going to the hardware store, several train stops down the street, and bringing in
Oh
two
my
by fours on the
God.
train, and like just ferrying back like construction stuff, spending all my money building that out, and then on sublets. And I eventually just like stayed in the studio for a year until like I had money saved again from my teaching job. But it was like, okay, yeah, I mean, got it done, and managed to get the record done.
Yeah.
I don't talk to those guys anymore because it never got better. I mean, like these are old friends, and they
Yeah.
just lied about so much. Or one of them did. He was a control freak, and then the other one, it was just too much. We get to see each other for who we are, and I'm like, all right, I've seen that, and now I've made a choice based on that. The one person I miss out of that group was the lead guitar player that we gained when we were in Prague. He's a guy from Hastings, Jez Donnelly, amazing guitarist, incredible guitarist, and he was like more. I think he was like the purest person in the band, really, because he just wanted to play music, and he had that kind of very cramped style of a lot of like really heavy blues, a lot of like a Django kind of
Nice.
punk,
Nice.
like all of it just.
I love that.
And he was fantastic. Like really, I miss playing with him. I miss him as a person. And I adored that band, and I adored what we did together live. But you get to that point where you have to make the hard decision to go. I can't do this anymore.
Well, and when you're younger, you put up with more than you. When you get to a certain age, you kind of have your boundaries more
Yeah.
established.
Well, it was also kind of like they asked a big lift where it's just like move everything and come here, and they weren't ready. You know what I mean? Like they weren't putting as
Right.
much out as I was. So like they didn't know what they were asking.
Aileen's first band, Blue Valentine, started as a Tom Waits cover band in Berlin and Prague in the early 2000s. Let's take a listen to Big in Japan. Fresh out of college in Nashville, Aileen attracted the attention of Capricorn Records and worked there for a decade, learning the music business and promoting their artists. Did you go from there when you moved back? Is that when Capricorn?
No, I did Capricorn when I was really young. Like it was like right out of
Okay.
college kind of thing. Yeah, so I worked for them like on and off for like 11 years. I started out as a receptionist and assistant to the VP who did all of the contract memos and stuff like that. And then I ended up being the tour publicist for all of the bands. Yeah, like that was kind of a weird education because I didn't go looking for it. The guy who ran it, Phil Walton, he found me at a local restaurant where I was hosting. He liked the way I took care of the band, I guess, and sent somebody after me the next day. That was kind of like this unexpected family in a weird way. But I think it worked out for me because I was weirdly ignorant of music industry. And so I was very earnest, and like everything, you come correct and you do what you say you're going to do. So I worked really hard, and I also like was ridiculously ethical in a way that I don't think they expected or was even required.
Yeah.
And so I was like, why would you do that? Just something unethical. And so I could push back on a lot of things that I didn't expect to happen.
So you were able to change the internal culture a little bit?
Yes and no. I mean, it's like I didn't get like fired for, not caving into certain things. But like at the same time, I made room for myself in that way, and I didn't realize I was doing that. Like I had like these guys would come up and like get my phone number, and they're like vendors or friends with one of the bosses or something, and they wanted to go out. It was like a little bit more lurid than that. Some of it was just like, let me buy you a stock portfolio, or like come up to the hotel.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh God.
And then this is after I turned him down several times. So you're trying to buy me? No, man. That's
wow.
And so like the whole polite conversation of like, hey, so that's not necessary or appropriate. Like how do I put this nicely to you since you're friends with my boss? But then like another is like, come up to the hotel and lie naked by me for 15 minutes. You don't have to do anything. And this is after several days of him harassing me at midnight on my phone and me telling him no.
And this was artist or industry?
One was a vendor, like a big, well-known merchandise guy, and the other one was someone who was still doing artist management. Like he was a actor director, and it was just like the first look he got, like that he gave me when he realized I was not coming upstairs when I was dropping him off. It was my job to drop him off to his hotel after screening his film. He looked so shocked that I said no, because I'm like, no, I'm gonna go home. All right, bye. And I'm like giving him an out where I'm like, I'm being very professional and pleasant. And I'm like, I'm not assuming what you mean by this.
Right.
So I'm going to give you a chance to take it back. Right. Mm-hmm. And he was just like, are you serious? And I think he actually asked me that. And I'm like, yeah, it's late. I'll see you tomorrow, and it's like,
yeah.
But like this went back and forth where he ended up calling me and all of this stuff. And he's like offered me a film. And I'm like, I didn't understand why he would do that even, because I'm like, well, I know you're in theater and you act and all that. I'm like, yeah, but you've never seen me act. So like I would have to audition for you before you cast me. Right. So thanks for the offer. I mean, like, I'll audition for you, but I'm not going to take a role off of you. Right.
Right.
And then the whole thing of like, just lie naked by me. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, and then finally at that point, I just had to say, does your mother know you behave this way? And I pulled the mother card.
That's a good one.
And it shocked him. And I go, you're a Southern, your mother, did she or did she not raise you to be a Southern gentleman, from what I understand about your mom? And would she approve of this? Would she approve of the way you're behaving? Does she know you're like this?
You weren't afraid?
No, I needed him to understand not to do this at all anymore.
Right.
And he goes like, no, she didn't. And I'm like, right. Okay, think about it. You don't want to be something that your mother wouldn't approve of or wouldn't respect, right? You respect your mom, right? And he's like, absolutely, because she single mom. And
right.
so I kind of hit a nerve there. And so he kind of knocked it off for a little while. Didn't get in trouble for any of that. I took care of it, never mentioned it to anybody, and went on about it. It did open my eyes to a lot of what was going on over there. It's like, it's the music industry, and people kind of play fast and loose around that. Mm-hmm. And I think it's with any entertainment industry, like, there's a lot of like big egos that get involved.
The next cut is a great example of Aileen's unique vocal style, featured in a performance by Waiting for UFOs at No Words ATL 2.0 in 2023. it's incredible.
No.
What you're able to do, you talk about telling a story, but even when I've seen you do instrumental performances, your voice really comes from another world almost. Can you talk to me about your vocal range and your experience with playing around with that?
I think I have more freedom, or I've always had more freedom to see what my voice does because I just sing how I sing. When I first started kind of singing or like listen to old albums, I'd hear like these really deep resonant voices. I had like a slight hearing issue. And so I put my ear right up against the cabinet and you feel it in your chest. It vibrates your body.
Yeah.
I wanted that voice. So I'm like, oh yeah, I want to sing that low. That's really, I can feel that.
Like who?
Like Johnny Cash, or like Tennessee Ernie Ford, even in a weird way. Yeah, this is when I was a kid. And then like hearing people like Nick Cave now or Tom Waits even, I was just like, all right, and I just kept trying and see how far I could stretch my voice. And eventually it stuck. Oh shoot. I can do that. I don't know. I talked to a voice therapist once. He was like going, you wouldn't be able to do that if your vocal cords weren't built that way. So you're fine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she actually just thought that was delightful because after talking to her, I realized like my voice isn't really that much of an anomaly just from a physical or technical sense, because there are a lot of women with deep voices. There's just not an expectation that you would use it that way. So a lot of people pitch it up, to the top of their range.
Right. I was going to say, again, going back to the industry, I think it's no accident that a lot of mainstream female artists do have a higher vocal range that tends to be considered the norm, but not necessarily is the norm.
Right. And I think because I never really dealt with that as much, I just kind of didn't really ask permission to sound the way I sound either, which is, I think that's kind of an anomaly maybe. I'm not the only one, but like it's just not as expected. I ended up kind of inadvertently creating more freedom for myself to be a storyteller and just to play more and more with my voice to see what it can do, because I was already doing that. That was already the expectation that I was going to. I can get ugly, I can get emotional, or I can get vibrant and weird. And they're like, sure, I've already kind of made room for myself, and so my voice just kind of kept expanding in weird ways. And then I ended up getting into throat singing as a natural offshoot of that. And because I was singing so low, the lower part of it was easier to kind of come to terms with.
What's the physicality of throat singing as opposed to other singing?
Well, like throat singing, you're basically using different muscles in your throat to kind of control the tone, and then like it's where you put your tongue sometimes, or like if you're singing through the side of your mouth, but you're trying to create a harmonic. And so you have like several notes going, right? So you're trying to create a harmonic, and a lot of it you'll hear the low stuff where it's like. You'll hear the low stuff first over there, and then it'll like go up, and they'll go into overtone singing, and you'll like get into this high tea kettle kind of sound, which was elusive for several decades. And I finally figured out how to do that. I've been like rehearsing or like practicing every morning in the last couple of months, figuring out overtone stuff better. And it's weird. Like the more I do that, the higher my actual singing range has gotten. And I think it's because I'm working different muscles, but I'm also becoming more confident in actually singing high in the first place. Yeah, it's weird because I like there's like you kind of psych yourself out. Like you could be in the car and sing like an old Pat Benatar song or whatever, but because you've known it for so long, it just kind of comes out. But if you try to sing that on stage, forget about it. You know what I mean? Because you're like, no, like, how would you even do that? And not to say that I could hit all the notes that she does, but like, for example, that's something I would be more comfortable singing in my car. But for some reason, just with the practicing overtone singing, my vocal range just automatically bumped up without me actually trying. And so now I'm kind of playing with that live a little bit here and there. So like, that's kind of fun. So, because usually I think I would present myself as a tenor and below, tenor to bass. And so now it's like, ooh, alto, maybe like a little bit higher, I'm so fancy.
Some of the male singers who do the falsetto, which is so interesting.
Yeah, I actually have a falsetto now, and I never had one before. I mean, it's not the most consistent thing, but I never had one before this last year or so.
Oh, I have to hear this. Aileen Loy is a member of the groundbreaking orchestra of legendary players and creators waiting for UFOs. This next cut is live from No Words ATL 2.0 in 2023. So I'm going to jump to a different page. Again, you seem to exist in multiple worlds at once. And so I'd love to hear you talk about how you got into your mission of overdose prevention.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I was doing a bunch of different grassroots activism during the pandemic. Right about that time, there were 3 people from the music community, like the bar community here in Atlanta, that died in the same weekend. Because of overdose. And this woman who is also a musician and singer in town, she runs Georgia Overdose Prevention, and she decided she was going to do like a bunch of really big trainings in conjunction with some of the larger, like these, they're considered like small music venues, but they feature pretty largely within that community. So it was Star Bar and the Earl. They co-hosted and made room for Andy Gish to come in and do these major trainings. And she was able to get a grant in for like, I think like 1,000 units of naloxone to give out. I ended up volunteering through that. And the first training that she gave, I think she gave out over 600 units that day. It was her on Georgia harm reduction, and then like a bunch of us volunteers that were involved with a lot of bands that came out for that, and they came out for the one at the Earl and a couple of other subsequent ones. And I kind of kept in touch, would volunteer when she had other training sessions. And she contacted me a little bit later. She had this idea to do naloxone vending boxes. So, people could just kind of access naloxone on their own, be available 24 hours, would be outside of a business, would decide to be the steward of it, and people could just freely open the door and take out what they needed. And she saw what I'd been doing with banned books and was wondering if I had an idea of how to make that happen. And so I suggested fire extinguisher boxes and kind of refurbishing those.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and getting signage. And so I did the first batch of prototypes for GOP. We both worked out how to keep this really inexpensive, because if you try to order something like that online, it's over $250 to get one of the boxes that have already been made. And so we managed to figure out how to make it like $20, where I'm just basically go to several salvage places and pick them up and then sand them down, repaint them, and put signage and all that. And then she worked through a network to try to find locations for them throughout Georgia.
Here's a live performance by Waiting for UFOs in 2024 at the Garden Room of Wild Heaven that really demonstrates Aileen's soul-jarring vocals. the banned books libraries that you do, I think you said were magazine stands?
They were old newspaper stands.
Yeah.
Like mostly like creative loafing kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What I did is like they had stopped doing printed material. But they, and they picked up quite a few of them, but there were like quite a few that were still like sitting where they had been for years. They just haven't been used in a long time.
Like layers of stickers on the
Yeah,
side.
absolutely. And like big old stacks of like old newspaper on the bottom. I would pick them up and refurbish them and do like a similar color paint job, but with like a weird chromatic shift sparkle on it. So it's like slightly different. So there's something different about it, but you couldn't tell what. And then I stickered it with like Little Free Contentious Library and read banned books, and then fill them with banned books. And I would kind of keep an eye on them and kind of like try to keep them up. And this was like for the first several months of those. And I put them right back where I found them. So it took up the same footprint. Yeah, you might not notice that anything had changed. And you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Because you pass by that box, like for years, you pass by that box. And then after a while, I was given permission to kind of snatch a few more. And then I started finding people who would steward them and make sure that they kept, getting stocked. And some of the other ones, I was like kind of hoping that the neighborhood would take them over and start filling them. But yeah, I think I've got like over 60 boxes, including a couple of, I did a small partnership with Read for Unity, and they provide access to books to kids who would like to see themselves represented in stories more often.
Yes.
Between that and the newspaper boxes, because I've done a couple of Little Free Library, but I think I've got like over 60 boxes in 5 states.
That's amazing.
And I got a little under like 30,000 books that we put out. Yeah,
Incredible.
it's not the most like self-sustaining thing. Like, okay, I got enough money to go to the thrift store and to go to a couple of secondhand bookstores. Yeah.
Well, it's almost like performance art, right? Because the art of it happens, you're already gone in a way.
Yeah. Like that was my favorite thing to do is when somebody would request a box, I put them on a list and then kind of like, okay, cool, finish it. Like, cause I would just like go through and just like bam, 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 and like get a bunch of done in a row and then like fill the back of the van. And I would just drive by, like hop out, like, lug this big box out, put it up there, fill it with books, take a quick picture, get back in the car, drive down the road, and then like leave a message going, your box is here, and then drive away. So they never saw me do it. Like I was like going, surely one day I'm going to get caught. And I'm like, nah. And like that was
like graffiti.
Yeah, it was the idea of just drop it and go. I began to really like that, where it was just kind of like, there's something really kind of like spy versus spy and graffiti art, kind of thing.
And another clip from Waiting for UFOs, who will be performing October 10th at Wild Heaven and feature Aileen Loy's Giant Whale.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, that's it for my interview with Aileen Loy, a true enigma, a gentle soul with the heart of a badass female artist and musician. For more information about Georgia Overdose Prevention, go to georgiaoverdoseprevention.org. To learn more about sharing banned books, go to littlefreelibrary.org/about/book/bans.
Thanks for listening to Art Sluts Radio.
Hey, if you identify with the Art Sluts, explore our herstory at artsluts.net. That's ARTSLUTS.net. And purchase downloads of our music wherever you stream music.
All contributions and purchases will go to support Planned Parenthood.
Currently, 21 states have limited access to women's health care, including abortion, and 15 of those have a total ban.
Talking about your abortion experience, voting and donating to support abortion rights will make a difference.
I hate to leave you, baby. I don't wanna have to go. It's just my music, baby.